Hey everybody, Gurmy's Coast Yard here, back with another episode of Gurmy's Coast Yard. And you can see we have a little issue with the signs here, not sure what's going on there. I will try and get that fixed for later. Anyhow, um, but in today's episode, I wanted to work on the namesake of our park. So, Germanator Gardens, I guess, in my idea of the history of this park, is that it originated as sort of a public gardens or someplace that people could go. So I thought I wanted to incorporate that idea, and the way I want to do that is basically by having a picnic area outside the park with a lot of greenery and a lot of flowers and things of that nature. So I figured we have all this space, we can do something pretty cool with that. It doesn't have to be huge, and of course the park itself will be lush with gardens and everything. But then, in addition to that, because this is Roller Coaster Tycoon, I also want to have sort of an entrance coaster, as most parks kind of feature. And I was thinking we could start with just a nice classic wooden roller coaster that kind of runs along the back length of the gardens here. And so that is what we're going to work on today. So let's get started. Now, I don't think, unless we have time for it, I don't think I'm going to work on like the actual greenery right along here, but I do want to start along the edge of this building. This was our sort of membership slash guest services building, and I want to start there just because the gardens built over here are going to integrate from whatever borders this building, if that makes sense. So we'll get started clicking on our foliage button up top, and I usually like to deselect everything I'm not going to use, so I'm going to draw from our generic scenery here. And if you want, you can even take it a step further down on the bottom left here. If you just deselect trees and flowers or whatever you don't want, then we'll find our small hedge. I will usually leave those open because I know about where everything is relative to everything else. But what I'm going to do is border all of our pathways with small hedge pieces. And one thing I might do, we'll figure it out. You can either like come along here if we were just going to do a border along the building, but I'm not going to do that to start because we want to design our garden space. And I think what I'll do is come over here with the pathways, and we're going to leave at least one gap in here. Actually, let's leave two. So we'll leave a 2 wide gap and then come up with something along these lines. Maybe we'll do this, have an outer circle or an outer square and an inner square. And this seems like a good spot for an entrance. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So that'll be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 in width. And this inner one, I guess, is what, 7, 2, 3, 5, right? Because we're getting rid of a couple spaces in the middle. Anyway, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it doesn't have to be anything complicated. Just a simple design like this to start. And then you can come through here like this, and boom, already we have a nice big space for a garden. And then we can come back to our foliage pieces and get our small hedge. And I almost always start with the hedge pieces. Another one, if you're doing like a tropical park, so something based in Florida or something where there's going to be palm trees, if you come to your adventure shrubbery, I guess you can call it that, or foliage, you can also get the low adventure hedgerow. I honestly, usually I prefer the look of this one, but our park is going to be based a little further north, so I think in terms of the ecosystem, the standard hedge will make more sense. And here the small hedge. So we'll grab that and build it along here like so. And I think I'll do a time lapse here, just so you don't have to suffer through me talking. Okay, so we have our hedges all in place now, and you might notice I left a couple blank spots here, bare spots. And the reason for that is because this is going to be a nice big garden. I don't just want to stop with one little section here. I want to expand in this direction. So what I want to do is something along these lines, and we might even do another square at the end. As a matter of fact, here's an idea. Let's do something like this. Let's get 3 rows going, and then let's say, yeah, every 3. We can kind of make a brick pattern almost. And we had 1, 2, 3 there. Okay, and we'll stop here, and then let's do another square. Like so. And already we've done something kind of unique and kind of doubled the size of our garden area here. So get creative with it. Don't just limit yourself to one small area or this and that. If you're doing something along these lines, you can make it a little more interesting. And this doesn't have to be limited to a garden. It can be like a central hub of your park or something too. And let's switch up from this design over here, and instead of just doing these paths in the middle to get to the entrance, let's double it on each side, just something different. And maybe we can even go into the middle here, something like that. And then that'll give us an opportunity to do something different with this pattern as opposed to what we did over here. And maybe we can even mirror this on that side, and then basically we'll have a nice long big garden, whatever you want to call it. In fact, what I think I might end up doing, and this is where you can kind of decide things as you go, but maybe we'll put this in the middle since it has a nice open space, and we can put a fountain or something in there, and then we'll make this the design that goes on the ends. I don't know, we'll figure it out. But let's extend these paths out as well. And then we'll mirror this connecting path. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, put one there, and then like so. Perfect. Alrighty. And then we can mirror our square on this side. And I think we don't have to do a time lapse right now. I guess not everything has to be one. Anyway, 4, 5. All right, we went a little too far on that other side, but that's okay. So, believe it or not, I'm kind of, well, you probably very easy to believe, but I'm kind of just winging this right now. So I don't normally do gardens or anything like that in my parks, believe it or not. And did I make that too big? Yes, I did. Somehow. Okay. Anyhow, yeah, I've made small, like, picnicky areas, but I don't normally make full-size gardens or something like this. So I'm definitely improvising right now, if you couldn't tell. But drawing from that, like, don't be afraid to improvise. I made this too big in multiple directions. Lovely. So don't be afraid to improvise. It's okay to try something and end up not liking it and getting rid of it, because that's how you're going to find what you do like, but also that's what's going to make you a better builder or creator in the long run within Roller Coaster Tycoon, or maybe it's Planet Coaster, or any creative sandbox type game. Anyhow, let's move on. I'm going to do another time lapse while I place some small hedges. So have fun watching, and I will be right back. Alright, everybody, so we have completed lining our pathway here with all of the small hedges. And what I want to do from here, um, for one thing, we have a couple bare areas right through here. So I want to fill these out with something. And I mentioned doing a picnic area or something of that sort. And I think this would be a good spot to have some tables, or not that we can do tables within the game, but to have like chairs facing each other or just something along those lines. So we are going to fill these spots out a little bit, and we'll do it again here on the other side. Or maybe it's just more space, I don't know. I don't even know if I want to have it connected to that path, come to think about it. That's something we can decide in a little bit though. But this will just be a little offshoot area for whatever we want to put there. So the next thing I want to do is fill all this up with trees and flowers. And I do have an idea for these big middle sections, so I'm going to leave them as they are as we build them. I'm not going to try and do one in the middle, and you'll kind of see my reasoning for that here in a little bit. But just to get started, let's just fill these back in, and I'm going to line this outside edge of our little alcove here. Another thing I thought is maybe we put like some sort of shelter house in there, or something for people who are waiting for their bus to show up, or something along those lines. And so something integrated with the gardens but not really connected to them. There's sort of any number of things we could do there. Anyhow, we have our shrubs back in, so let's work on the edges here. So small green bush right above the small hedge, that's kind of my go-to bush because it's nice and big here. It takes up a lot of space. And I think what I'm going to do is put one on the middle here. So basically, if you look at this little L piece, here I'll turn it so it's L-shaped. So in the middle of each line of 3, putting a small green bush, and then we'll come and get, where is it? We can start with a medium sugar pine, put that on the corner, and then we'll find our small sugar pine and put that on the edges. That way the corner sort of builds up to a point diagonally. And the reason, part of that I think is just, I think that's how it looks the best. You could also do, let's do a small pine on the corner and medium in the middle just to try it. Always try every variation of something to see what you like the best. But I do think because the corner, the shape of this bed is pointed and here's the corner, I think having the corner be the part where the tallest tree is makes sense. So we're going to do medium sugar pines on the corners, small sugar pines on the caps, and then in between the small green bush. So let's look at some other trees too, because I am borderline religious about the sugar pines in this game. The other fir tree is the Douglas fir, and I just don't like the shade of green it uses. It blends in a little too much with the ground beneath it and the small hedges, whereas that deeper, earthier green in the sugar pine I think looks a little better. So that's why I used that. So you might ask, we're talking color here, why do I use the small green bush as opposed to, if I can find it here, actually it'll be a little lower, sorry, the tall or the small yellow bush. Well, small yellow bush, it looks good, but it's very small. It's consistently small. In fact, let's find a 1x1 tile here. If you see, there's like that gap in between the hedges and the bush. Oops. Hedges are hard to work with when you're trying to delete stuff. But whereas the small green bush, it's about twice the size, so it fills out more space. That is why I default to that one. So when I'm building something that's not tropical, I always use a combination of the small green bush and the sugar pines, and of course the small hedges. So let's get the rest of our sugar pines here. We'll find our small sugar pine and put it on the caps of our bed. If you want to get really specific, you'll notice if I place 3 small sugar pines, they're not all the same size. So if you really want to get into it, you could delete and replace them until they're exactly the size you want. I don't concern myself too much with that because, you know, they're going to grow at different speeds anyway. So it's not the end of the world. Anyhow, let's put back the hedges we deleted. And now what are we going to do with this middle section? So here's what I was thinking. It's nice and big. There's room for a big tree here. Unfortunately, there aren't really many big trees given to us in Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. I don't really know what the situation is for other amusement park games, but here's something you can do in this game that I think should translate between different games if you're creative. If we come to our spooky set of scenery, we can find the large nightmare elm here. I'm just going to double check to make sure that's the right one and place it right in the middle. So it places as a 1x1, but really it extends outward into the 3x3 space of this grid. So it's nice and big. Lots of roots here, so if you want, you can sink it down so the roots are not as spacious. And I'm just going to do that on the other side as well so I don't forget later. So that'll make the root structure a little more inviting and less gnarly in, I guess, a literal sense of the word. And then what we can do to fill this out is come to our prehistoric foliage and we can get giant ferns. So we can do this. That's one way you can do it. Or if you want to fill it out, you can even do giant fern too. But you don't just have to stack it on top because that looks kind of mediocre, to put it politely. So you'll notice the giant fern is 1x2, which means if I place one here in the top left corner of this square and place it horizontally, I can rotate it 90 degrees and then place another one. So we can place a total of 4 of these around the tree. We don't want them around the base of the tree. We're going to lift them up into the air. So the scenery piece itself will be suspended in the air, but it will give the illusion that it is a part of the tree. So if we just come up here, that should be a good height. We'll rotate it, bring it up, rotate it, up, rotate it, up, just like that. And then the only thing left is the very top of the tree. Just place one up there like that. And you can see already how well that looks. So let's find out here. Yeah, so you can kind of figure out how you place it. So we placed the lower left one. I'm going to adjust that or delete that top one for a sec. But we placed it sort of along these 2 squares here. If I rotate 90 degrees again, I can go back to that lower left corner and then lift it up one above the other ferns. Oops. Basically, we can fill the tree out even more. In fact, I dare say we don't even need to put one on top if we do that. From the ground, it'll look just fine. But if you want, you can put one on top just to cap it off. And we'll remember we put it facing the front edge when we do it on the other side. So let's come over here. Actually, before we do, let's see here. So we're going to get the height of this one. Just hold Control. And we're going to bring it down to the other end at that height. Just like that. And then fill it out all the same. And you don't have to do these mirror imaged or identical. You can kind of pick your own way to do them, or just do them a little differently from one another so it does look a little more natural if you want. And we're just going to go ring around the rosy here. And then facing the front edge. Perfect. In fact, just to be different, oops. I don't know what I just got rid of there. I think that one. It's okay. It's okay to make mistakes, especially when you're doing this. but we'll put it facing the back there. And now we have two very nice large trees filled out in the centerpieces here. So remember, because it was 1 by 1, now we can go around the outside with flowers or other foliage. I want to do flowers just to break it up. In fact, before I do, we can come over to our terrain painter and we'll get the grass with flowers. Flowered grass, as it's called. I wonder why. Just sparkle that around the outside there. Now, what I like about the flowered grass is when you're doing foliage, it goes great underneath things. However, if you want it to look like people have littered all over the grass, it's also great for that. So it looks like pieces of paper or whatever. But of course, with context, I think that's what matters. So with context that we're in a garden, it looks floral. So the next thing we're going to do, I want to place flowers under here. But if you just grab a large flower bed right off the bat and start placing it, I personally think these colors don't look very natural. So I try to find slightly more natural variations in the color palette if I can. And you can change the colors to, oops, I was like, why is it not painted? Okay, we'll grab this one. You can change the colors and experiment with your sort of palette here and just find something that looks a little nicer. Something that's not too bright, something that definitely looks accurate, I guess, if you want to put it that way. And just experiment with your different colors. And let's go for a violet. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but if you mute the colors a little more, I think it makes a big difference. And let's do something yellow. You want to be careful too that you're not like that yellow, put like a yellow perimeter on some of the flowers or a yellow edge. It doesn't really look great. If you want to figure out which edge or which flowers you're painting, or which, like if you change this color on top, I made it dark red just so I can see which ones are actually going to change. Let's go for, doesn't have to be white. Let's try, blue, green. I know there aren't really any green flower petals. We could even just try all white just to see. That's a little too bright for my taste though. Let's get some lighter colors though. Maybe that'll do. And pink. Gotta be careful though. So definitely experiment with it. That looks good. A nice variety in there. And now that we have our colors decided, when we grab the large flower bed again, that will copy those colors over. In fact, until you change them, anytime you load up this world file, it should keep those all the same. And we did, the sugar pines are on the outside here, so I think we will repeat that again on the other side. Anyhow, look at that, already we have this nice filled out flower bed, or tree bed, or whatever you want to call it. Now we can't do any of those flowers on the ring here, the inside ring, because that is already filled out with other trees and bushes. But we can, on the outermost ring, put in flowers, and I think that's what I want to do. I want to save these middle strips here for something else, but just to not overcrowd this area, we're going to put a soft edge here. And when I say soft edge, I mean just something that's low to the ground, low profile, something that doesn't catch the eye immediately. And we'll just go all the way around the ring here. And I'm going to do a time lapse while I finish this. Since it'll be the same on that side, I'm going to build that one up. And then from there, I'll show you what we're going to do with these middle sections and what I want to try and do behind here. So I will see you guys in a moment. Now that that's finished, one thing I will note here, so I mentioned you can delete and replace trees to make them the size you want. So sometimes the largest small sugar pine and the smallest medium sugar pine are close to each other in size. So sometimes you might want to delete something and replace it just to get something a little more proportioned the way you want to. And finally, I forgot, last couple small sugar pines along here. And already, look at that. Both sides are done, and it didn't even take that long. I probably could have gotten away with not doing a time lapse there with how quick it was. But we're going to go along here with our different things, and I think just to mix it up again, we'll look for our roses. Now the roses are only a quarter tile, so I think I'm just going to do 4 roses all together like this. So we're going to take up all that space with the rose bushes. As a matter of fact, I just noticed you can do different colored roses. So maybe I usually stick with red roses. Maybe we'll mix it up a little bit though. I grabbed the wrong shade of red there. Anyhow, like maybe we could do a checkerboard pattern. Something I didn't really think about. I'm gonna have to look into the different shades of roses though, and I think I'll do that sort of off as a side project if I get to it. Anyhow, onward ever. What if each little block here was like a separate color? So maybe it would be like red roses and yellow roses and pink and white or something like that, just to mix it up. I think that could look really cool. But what are we going to do with this middle section? So you'll notice I don't really have no big center square here for a centerpiece. It's because I don't really want a centerpiece here. I want the centerpiece to be back here. And what I'm thinking is sort of having like an indoor greenhouse slash botanical garden space, something along those lines. So that's why these trees on the end will kind of make a nice space, and then those can sort of, like the greenhouse can sort of extend outward and just deepen this garden space out front. I think that could look really cool, and definitely contribute to this like classic feel of this park, or this historic feel, I guess. So how are we going to fill out this space to complement that? Well, I think it would be beneficial, maybe first things first is to just lay out our greenhouse and sort of how we want to do that. So we can come to our scenery section, walls, roofs, and buildings, and funny enough, maybe not so funny, but the botanical garden pieces are here in the sci-fi set under hydroponic walls. And you'll notice we have a nice variety here of straight and curved walls with different plants. Let's place some of them so we can see how they look. And it definitely looks like it could be like berries, I guess maybe potatoes, not potatoes, something on the left, squash maybe. I'm definitely growing food here for like a sci-fi space, whatever you want to call it. And they also have, I think, empty pieces? No. Okay, so we have the walls that don't have anything, and then you can come to your generic scenery and go to your glass wall set. That's where you get the blank glass walls. Don't think we're going to need them for this project, because you definitely want to have all that green space on the inside. But let's first things first take our walls. I guess we'll just lay out a perimeter for this building. So of course we're going to have our entrance right along here, and I think we're going to bring it right, let's have it back one, just so we can have that natural border. You know I like my natural borders when it comes to these kinds of builds. But what I think I want to do here is take our curved piece. One moment. Make sure you get the right one too. Okay, curved wall 2. So we want, actually, let's do wall number 2, because these are berries. Those look a little nicer than whatever these are. Anyhow, I want to have sort of a main building here that's a little smaller, and then the secondary buildings off to the side will extend forward a little bit. So I think I just want this one to sort of go back 3 spaces. Kind of like this. I don't want it to extend too far back because, like I said, I also want to have room for a roller coaster. And that needs to be in one. So I want the roller coaster to kind of go behind the building, but also where we can maybe have it do a turnaround in this area. So it's an entrance coaster in the sense that it's right by the entrance and it's the first look at a coaster that people will see as they approach your park. Anyhow, I don't want to say don't be afraid, but like look at all your options here. So we have, I guess this could be like a top piece. Actually, I don't think that'll work, but you have little miniature greenhouses. In fact, maybe we could do some of those around this area too. Just an idea. Anyhow, let's get back to what we were doing. Wall 2. That's the one with the berries. Nope. Wall 1. That's the one with the berries. And we're going to leave a couple spots for an entrance / exit. Of course, traffic will be 2 ways in here. And we'll just do something like that. And maybe we'll even go back a little bit just to add some depth and some shape and character to this building. So let's get inverted curved wall 1. And if I can find a spot, there we go. Sometimes they're a little tricky. And back to, yeah, we'll grab wall number 1 while we're down here. And then find our curved walls. It can be a little annoying at times finding stuff. But look, I think that's a nice shape. Then we'll get our straight walls again, just so we can go out to the side. In fact, that is not going to work if we want a pathway in there, unless we want them bushwhacking. But I do not want them bushwhacking. So this will be a spot where we can use our normal glass walls. How about that? And with that, our main building here is complete. So I'm just going to fill out these paths on the inside, and I think I want to see, instead of doing some paths along here, I guess maybe we can loop around back. I don't know. But what I want to see if we can do is find some plants to fit in here. Because we're in a northern environment here, I'm thinking like Busch Gardens Williamsburg, which this park is kind of inspired by a little bit. Let's do something tropical. Let's go for a palm in here. And we'll have to lower that down a little bit. Actually, it's a little lower than I would like, so let's keep it simple. Let's get a dwarf palm. Always a good choice. In fact, when I am building tropical climate-esque parks, dwarf palm is sort of what I use in place of the small green bush in my planters. I'll use dwarf palms. And because we can, let's loop our pathway around the outside of the palm. Make this area a little more full. And finally, I think what I want to do here, let's get some borders on our paths. So I think in the last episode I talked about using the borders just to get a nice clean edge for when you paint the terrain underneath. a planter or what have you. So we'll use our irregular paving here all along those paths, and I'll go through off, well, I say off camera and then I start doing it, but yeah, I'll get the rest of this off camera, just paving all of this, so that way we can change the grass under here to dirt, and that will make whatever's on top pop a little more. Maybe I won't do it off camera. Anyway, to be decided, but I will start doing that along the inside of here, and that will just make our greenhouse here feel a little bit better. I don't know really exactly how to explain why I think that works. I think just because you probably wouldn't have grass growing, you'd have a lot more foliage lower to the ground in a greenhouse. I don't think it lets us place scenery along here though. But one thing I've noticed is right along the base here, there's not really a base to our greenhouse. So one thing we can do is, where is it? In our wall set, we'll go back to generic, we come over to colored walls. So here you can see I'm experimenting on the fly as well. Let's get the curved brick wall, block wall. I saw it a second ago. Here we go, curved block wall. We'll paint it black, like the Rolling Stones. Oh, there we go. That works. Okay, because that'll work along both edges here. So it's a little funny, I guess, right along there. That's a little broken up, but that is more consistent, and that'll work a little better than the other one. So look at that, innovative solutions. Come up with them every day. Okay. And we'll place that all along the border, and then of course we'll get our normal standard block wall for the straight pieces. Where is it here? Oh, perfect. And just like that. So that, oops. There we go. That will just add a lower edge to our greenhouse and make it feel a little more connected with the ground underneath it. Basically a foundation is what we're adding. And that is that. So that's the first building of our greenhouse. We will extend it out on either side, but I think I'm going to do that as a time lapse. One thing I will do though is I'm going to make one of these buildings and basically make it symmetrical so I can copy and paste it over to the other side and only have to connect them. But I'm going to do that in a time lapse because I'm hungry and I want to stop recording right now. Alright, anyhow, we'll do that, come back and do this middle planter here, and I don't know if we'll have time to do a roller coaster in today's episode, but we'll find out in a little bit. But that is that. I will see you guys on the other side of my time lapse. Alright everybody, so I went in off camera, and for one thing, I think you might have seen at the end of the clip where I was sort of copying these domes, I guess we'll call them, into place. I built this entire square 2 tiles too far to the left, basically with this little brick pattern, if we'll call it that. I accidentally extended it longer than I should have, so I just rebuilt all of that and put in all the flower beds and made everything the way it's supposed to be. And now it's looking pretty good, if I say so myself. So now what there is to do is fill in all the paths, just sort of tidy up the loose ends with the greenhouse or with the botanical gardens, whatever you want to call it. And I think that's mostly it. So we'll get started with that. We'll just keep the path going in here, and you'll notice, you probably saw, I replicated the main greenhouse structure for the end caps. So I figured I could do that, and it worked out to pretty much fill up the entire length of this garden. So it worked out nicely. And now I just have to come up with a pattern to put the pathways through these middle structures, if we'll call them that. So for one thing, we'll just open up a spot there, and I think we'll just use up all of the available space, I guess, like so. That works. And I don't think I want to try and go back here. Yeah, it's just kind of weird. Well, we can leave that for now, I guess. Have a little open area, and then bring it across. And then do the same thing over here. Okay, now that that's done, we're just going to fill in the rest of these end caps. And then that will be that. So put that there. And get our hydroponic wall and build it back up. Like so. And now that all of that is done, we need to build up the connecting walls, corridors we'll say, between the rest of the structures. And before we can do that, we'll need to find a peep and rename them M. Brooks, so we can get everything flush with the path. M. Brooks. And then we'll come back to our generic walls, I guess, under the glass walls, and then we can fill these in. Where did that go? Okay. Anyhow, just like so. And there will be 4 in total, since we have 5, we'll call them modules. And this will be the last one. And then we'll also put the block walls underneath them and finish it off with some of the hydroponic flat roofs on top. And with that done, I'm just going to add a quick flower bed in here, and then we will fill out the insides and work on our main area here. So, flowers, where are you? You know, as long as I've been playing this game, things never cease to hide from me. Anyhow, okay, now we'll work on filling out our nodes, and we're just going to go back for our tropical theme. So let's see if I want to mix it up a little bit. Yeah, let's do a couple queen palms. Sure, parlor palm there. And then let's go back for another dwarf palm, just like that. I think that fills it out nicely. We'll do the same thing over here. Dwarf palm, queen palm, and oops, that was right. No, queen palms go here. And then we'll find the parlor palm. Like so. Okay, and now before I forget, I do want to get the paint underneath the thing. So I am going to go through off camera really quick and get the irregular paving terrain paint and go underneath all of these paths. So I will be back in just a moment. Alright everybody, and with that, yeah, I have done all, you know, I struggle with my memory, I'll be honest, and I forget what I said I was going to do off camera. And that's partly because I decided to start placing these trees while I was talking, before I showed you what I went and did. So, good idea on my part. Anyway, yeah, I'm just going through along the border of our guest services building and putting in some small sugar pines and then some small green bushes. And then I will show you everything I did in the gardens themselves. In fact, I forgot to do a couple things I was going to do off camera, but that's okay. So I went through and I put the low adventure hedgerows all along the edges of these paths. Oh yeah, I do remember what I said now. I said I was going to put the irregular paving underneath them, and that's what I did. So I did those two things, and then I also painted dirt where all of the rest of the grass and foliage will go. So I went and did that in all of them. And sort of the last thing to do with this area, well, the first last thing I'm going to do is paint dirt underneath the trees and the bushes in here, like I did under all the flowers, just to round out that section a little bit. Sorry. And then what else? Put benches and lighting in. Oh yeah, and this area. So let's get to it. I think that will make for a good time lapse. Okay, so we have all of the lighting done, and I think for probably people who aren't as, how do I word it? People who don't spend as much time thinking about realism when they're doing buildings, they kind of just place lights haphazardly where it looks dark, which there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But one thing I try to do is keep everything uniform and symmetrical and consistent. So, for instance, along here you can see I place lights around each of these 4 points, I guess if you want to call them that, and keep it pretty consistent so that way the lighting is mostly even and it looks better. You'll notice like right around here there's a cluster of 3 lights, so it's a little brighter. You can maybe stand to move each of these 2 out 1. I don't think it's bad how it is though. And yeah, just trying keeping it consistent. You can see now we have a nice, rather well lit area. In fact, probably the worst spot is here in the middle of this section. It's just a little dark, and in fact one thing we can do to remedy that, I'll get our light again. Let's just do 1 and 2, and that'll make it nice and easy. And on this side, 1 and 2. And the other 2 things we will need are benches and trash bins. And I think I want to go with marble benches just to look a little bit more elegant. So we'll try to space those evenly. We'll start with the outer sections, and I think benches are easy. An easy rule for me to follow is if you have a corner, place a couple benches on the corner, because then people sitting on both of these can converse with each other a little easier. That's kind of my idea behind that. So we'll do each of the corners on the inner circle here. And then maybe on the outer circle, we'll do across from each other, adjacent to each light. Something like that. Yeah, and we'll do it again up here. So even though you want to offer many places for people to sit, especially in a garden like this, I don't want it to be too cluttered with benches. So I will hold back a little bit when placing benches. And how do we want to do it here? Let's do like this behind each of these planters out front. And then we have to pick a way to do it here. Let's do the same thing right across like that where we can. And we'll do benches along here in just a moment, but we're going to do the same thing over here. So each of our 4 corners. And one thing you can do as well is, like, maybe if you have a centerpiece like this, you can absolutely put benches around the perimeter of it if you want to, or you can just leave it empty. And I think we're going to leave it empty just to make it look a little cleaner along there. And then we'll do our benches here and here, here and here, then across from each other next to the light posts. Did we do them along the back before? I don't think we did. Here's a corner, so we can do corner, corner. Yeah. Sometimes you have to be creative. Sometimes you have to just make the decision, you know what, maybe no benches. I think we'll leave this spot for a trash can. So I do try and be somewhat consistent with things like trash cans as well. And we'll come over to this side. Corner, corner. And then we had 2 there, so we'll do 2 here. Just like that. As for the trash can, you can pick whichever one you want. I think I'll just go with the generic trash bin here. So we'll do one outside of, or in front of each entrance. And I do try and place trash cans fairly regularly, because if peeps in RCT like to do anything, they like to litter. So maybe I'll do one at each of the 4 centers along here. 1, 2. We'll do one more to the left right here. And then we'll do it right there on that edge. So coming down here. 1. To the right over here to be symmetrical. Then on that center, and we have the one there. So that's 4 trash cans in each place. And then for the middle, let's just go 1. I think we have 1 right here, don't we? No, we don't. 2. We do have 1 right there. And 3. In fact, let's move this one right across the way so it's even with that texture. And there we go. That's benches, lights, and trash cans. We do need to come up with benches for these middles, and I think I have a really good solution. I think, we have these pathways crossing between the main length ways, whatever you want to call them. Let's just do benches across from each other where there aren't any pathways. And that will be nice and consistent. And then we'll do one more across from the trash can. And then on this side, let's just do bordering each of the long flower beds. Had to think of the word there. Just like that. And we'll go through on the other side and do that as well. So yeah, I definitely like consistency when it comes to placing benches, especially in a garden where the goal of it is to look pleasing to the eye. So definitely my tip there. Like I said, this project, I've never really done a full-scale garden like this, so I'm kind of winging it, to be honest. Like I said, but that is okay. And speaking of winging it, that does remind me of one idea I had, and that is, if we go to our scenery pieces, it should be under generic scenery, right here. There is a giant butterfly piece, and I always think this makes a great accent piece for things. I used it on a museum in our last series. I always like to find a space for the large butterfly, and I think along here, maybe on the roof, I guess it might be floating a little bit, something like that is a good spot for it. Maybe instead of this flower bed, that can make a good spot for it, like so. And what other giant bugs do we have? I know there's the giant centipede. Don't think I want to use that one. Snail, a big snail. I don't think I want to use that one either. Anyhow, definitely things to consider. Wasp, maybe not. Anyhow, get creative. Don't just use walls and shrubbery. Also find scenery pieces that fit the style of what you're building. Anyhow, with that, all we have left for the garden is this center area here. So let's get to it. So following suit from the previous squares, I think I want to do medium sugar pines here on the corners. Actually, you know what? I want to do green bushes adjacent to them. So let's do small sugar pines, just so they aren't too overbearing here. Or maybe we could even do, let's do small sugar pines up front, and then medium sugar pines, in the back. And that will sort of draw the eye up towards the greenhouse structure here. And where are the small green bushes? We'll just do those adjacent to each of the green pines. And then finally, let's do some more, let me think here. Let's do 4 green bushes in the middle, and then we'll find our other greenhouse piece that we had our eye on under the wall set. Let's see, we have a small one and a tall one, and it looks like it's just those two. So let's do small out front, and then tall. Where is it? Oh yes, tall in the back. I think that looks pretty cool. And then let's do a couple more green bushes on the edges. So one of the other things that I previously neglected, by the way, I'll get to that in a second, these little bus stop areas, waiting areas, aside from benches, I ended up leaving them pretty bare, and then I put basically this like lawn mown grass texture in the middle. I think that looks pretty good, and that way it's not like overbearing, and if someone's sitting here, they don't have to, I think it's okay if they walk across the grass in theory to get to their bus or whatever, so nothing sort of blocking them, and this area can support a few more people waiting. Anyhow, okay, digression aside, let's go back to daytime as well. So the rose bushes here, I was talking about maybe coloring them differently, and I've decided yes, I want to do that. So if you come down to your custom structures tab under scenery and hit this paintbrush here, you can paint things different colors. So that rose bush now looks like it was in a fire, so we're gonna figure out, there's the petals. I think that color doesn't do anything, and this color controls the actual rose. So let's try and get that back to the color it was. I think we used the wrong shade of green here. Lovely. That's not exactly how I wanted to start this. You know what? Anyhow, alright, that's how it's supposed to look. So I guess both of the right and top colors do matter, so they do both need to be that dark green. One of them must just be for shading, but we can paint these different colors. So let's see, we'll leave some of them as red roses. Maybe these two planters can be red, and then let's do like say yellow along the front here, and whatever we do on this side we're going to mirror on the other side. So it's closest to the middle, so we'll do yellow here. I was thinking maybe we can do white roses along the back here, and then finally, let me make sure I get it right, maybe on the ends we can do like pink roses. I think that'll look pretty good. Let's choose the right shade of pink. A little too vibrant. I think that works. There we go. Pink roses. Pink roses. Pink roses. Ah, and we missed a green shrub right there. So let's throw that in real quick, and we will call the project almost complete. Might as well get these couple benches while we're at it. These ones, we could do seats like that since it's more of a bus stop. I think I'm going to use, oh dang it, I think I'm going to use the wooden bench here, just because, just so they can have something a little more comfortable while they wait. So we'll do that. Oops, wrong way, on both sides here. Maybe. Where did we go? Okay. Yes. Anyway, with that, I don't think we're gonna have time to construct a roller coaster today. Maybe I will change my mind in editing. Otherwise, if I do decide we're gonna build a roller coaster, you won't hear this part of the video. So if you do hear this part of the video, it means that the episode is coming to an end. So thank you guys very much for watching. If you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments below. But now, the namesake of Germanator Gardens is complete. I will see you all in the next one. Have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.